Hi, this is Sheiley with Sheepishly Made and MCS Livestock. Thank you for joining me for the Easter Bunny felting tutorial. So here's some of the wool that you'll have if you're using my kit. You should have coral wool, a little bit of white wool, and a variety of colors. The coral wool should be an off-white color or the largest amount of white in the kit. So you should have a template as well. This is my rough sketch that I use in the beginning, but you'll have a nice template included with your kit. So we're going to make the bottom part of the body first. So you just want to roll up a nice tight ball. So to roll the ball, you need to take your coral wool and roll it up and kind of turn it and keep rolling very tightly. And then you want to felt all over the surface of your ball. So it's nice and dense, and it gives maybe about 25% when you squish it. Once you have that done, then we can make the head. So we're going to make another ball, but a little bit smaller than the body. We're going to do the same thing, felt over the entire surface. Mine wasn't big enough, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger by wrapping a little bit more coral wool around and felting that down. And to felt these two shapes together, you're going to hold them together and then felt through the base of the head and into the body. You're going to felt at an angle just through the bottom of the head and into the body until they're nice and tightly secure. And then you're going to take some more coral wool and wrap it on that part of the neck there where they meet. And this will help secure it more and blend the head into the body. This is one of the longest processes it took when I made mine. You just want to keep felting until it's nice and flat and dense over the whole object. Next, we're going to grab our nice bright white wool and wrap a little bit around the entire body that we've made so far. If you're using a nice bright white wool already, you might not need to wrap over the entire body. If you have some fibers going different direction, it doesn't look quite neat, maybe re-wrap it. And you always want to make sure when you wrap a new color onto your coral wool that you're doing it in the same direction. That way all the fibers look like they're nice and lined up and in the same direction. If you can tell which way the fibers are going. Now some parts you might not be able to wrap in the same direction. But if you felt it well enough so it's nice and flat, you really shouldn't see the direction of the fibers. And now we're going to make the ears. So mine were about 2 inches long, maybe a little bit less. So you just want to wrap up a little bit of your white wool. And we're going to felt it flat first. So you want to make these long, just long ears. And the tips of the ears should be a little bit wider than the base. So I wrapped a little bit more of the white wool around the tip of the ear to make it a little bit wider. And then you can felt in from the sides as well around those edges to make them neater if you need to. Just make sure when you're felting flat pieces that you're not felting deep into the mat. You only want to felt very gently, so just the tip of the needle maybe goes into the mat. If you push your needle far into the mat, it will pull your wool fibers with it. Once you have a nice ear that you're satisfied with, you want to make a matching ear. And then once we have both of those white ears, then we can add our pink to the inside of the ear. So just use a little bit of pink. You want to felt very gently. You don't want your needle to go all the way through the ear this time, or it will take that pink wool with it and you'll be able to see it on the back side of the ear. So just felt very gently. You'll still be able to felt it down even though you're barely pushing the needle in. And we're going to put the pink in the center, leaving a little white edge. And do this to both ears. And then we can attach them to the body. So just make sure that they're the size you want them. And then you can pull the base of the ears closer together. And you want the tips of the ears to kind of go outward. And you can just felt the base of the ear right onto the back of the head. I left the base kind of a little fuzzy and not very felted, so it'll be easier to felt it. So just felt through into the head. Just make sure you're not pushing your needle all the way through the head. You want to push it about into the center of the head. And make sure when you pull them that they're not going to come off. If they're trying to pull off, then you need to felt them a little bit more. And then we're going to wrap some more white wool around the head to blend in the base of those ears. And I wrapped a little bit more wool around the base just to make sure everything was covered up and you can't see the core wool before we add all of the other pieces to our rabbit. Now to make the details on the face, we're going to take a little bit of our pink wool first and make a small upside down triangle for the nose. So this can be like on the center of your head on the front. So make this little upside down triangle. Make sure it's centered with your ears. And I added enough wool so it kind of pops out and it's more 3D. So it's not a flat nose. So you can make a little ball of the pink and then felt it right on into the triangle shape. And to make the eyes, we're going to start with the eyes, making a little black circle. And later in the video, we'll add a little bit more to the eyes, make them a little bit bigger. Every once in a while, I change my mind when I'm making these videos. But the concept will be the same. So we're starting with a little black circle. And then we'll add a little bit of the blue to make bright blue eyes. So you just want to add a little bit of the blue. Later on, I actually make the eyes a little bit bigger. I think the small eyes made it look like a evil bunny instead of a nice happy Easter bunny. Now we're going to make the little cheeks of our bunny. So we're going to take some white wool, make little round balls with them, and put them just below and to the side of the nose. So they should kind of butt up to each side of that triangle coming down of the nose. And you also want to make these 3D to pop out from the face. So you can make a little ball of wool of the white in your hand first and then felt it on. And you can add more if needed. And then we'll take a little bit of black and we are going to use it to go in between the two cheeks here and around the bottom edges of them. You just want to use a very small amount and very deliberately stab the wool down. So you just want to make a little outline with the black. And then we're going to finish off our eyes here. So we're going to add more of the blue wool and make larger oval eyes. So we're going to make them a little bit bigger first with this blue wool. And then we'll add a little bit more black to make the black bigger. And just take a little bit more of that black and add on to the circle that you've already made with the black. And just to make sure it's matching on both sides. Both eyes are the same size. And we can add a little bit of the white for the reflection in the eye. And our final step will just to add a thin outline of black around the whole eye. Just use a very thin piece of wool and very carefully felt that onto the edge of the eye. Just a little bit at a time. And I'm adding a little bit more black to the base of the mouth there in between the cheeks. Now we're going to roll up some white wool to make the feet. So we'll roll up a little cylinder, and then we're just going to make these little feet. It should just kind of be a cylinder. You can leave the one side of the foot a little fluffy to help attach it to the body. And you want them to be a little bit flatter, but they can be fairly thick as well. And we're going to make a second foot. Just make sure they're about the same size. These ones were about 1 inch long, a little bit more for the little fluff on the one end. I had them sticking out about 3/4 of an inch from the body of the rabbit. And then we're going to distinguish the toes here with a little bit of black. We're just going to make 2 little lines of black here at the tip of the foot. Make it look like it has 3 little toes there. And once you have the 2 matching feet, then we can attach them to the body. So you want to hold them down where you want them to go and then just felt down through the base of that foot. So they should overlap underneath the rabbit a little bit. And just felt them enough so they're not going to pull off, just like the rest of the parts we've added. And then we're going to make a little tail. So you just want to ball up a little bit of white wool here. This wool was maybe about 1/2 inch wide. We're just going to make a little fluffy ball. It doesn't have to be as tightly felted as the other pieces, since this will be a nice fluffy tail. And we'll put a little bit of pink wool on one side. And we'll attach right at the base. You want it to be right at the bottom. This will help balance your rabbit here. And this is where you want to check how it's standing. So when you added the feet, this may affect how it stands. So to help with this, you can add a little bit more white wool on the bottom of your rabbit, on the parts that need to be lifted a little bit to make it sit square. So you can take some of that white wool and add it right on the bottom. You can add a whole circle of wool there if you need to. Just enough wool to help even it out and make it sit flat. And once you're satisfied with how it's sitting, then we can move on to making some arms. So you need to roll up your white wool very, very tightly. They should be about 1.5 inches long. And then to felt these, you're going to just felt it and then roll and felt and roll continuously until you have a nice, dense, felted arm. For the end of the arm, you need to felt inward and leave the other end, leave a little bit of fluff there. Don't felt it all the way down. That'll help attach it to the body. The biggest part of making the arms or little tight cylinders is that you wrap it very tightly and then felt and roll and felt and roll. And to make the little paw, we're going to add a little bit of pink wool and then 3 little dots of wool above it, like a little paw print. And then make another. Once you've made the 2 arms, make sure they're the same length, of course. And then you can felt through the one end of the arm and onto the body of the rabbit. Just make sure before you felt them on that you kind of eyeball where you want them to go. And then just felt down the end of the arm to the body. Snug enough that they're not pulling off. And then you can take a little bit of white wool and add it to the back, just enough so it covers up where you were felting on the arm. And they'll just blend everything together. And we're going to add just a little bit of color to the belly of the rabbit. I blended a little bit of white and pink together, and then I'm going to add a little oval of this to the belly. And that should complete the rabbit, and now we're just going to make his basket and the eggs. So if you don't want to make an Easter rabbit, then you can complete this video with just the rabbit itself as well. But for the basket, I took a little bit of this brown wool and rolled it up into a cylinder. And then I'm actually felting into the top of the cylinder first to make an indentation and keep a raised edge. So I'm just felting in the middle and keeping the edge so it's higher to make kind of that basket shape. And then to felt in the side, you can just felt it very gently around the side. Just don't felt it on that top where that little ridge is that you've made. And then to make the handle, we're just going to do a flat piece, a little flat, skinny rectangle. Kind of the same way you did the ears. You want to flip it over and felt it very gently to make a nice flat piece. And then you can carefully attach each end to the main part of the basket. So felt it down further than right at the top, so you're not felting into that ridge of wool. Make sure it's nice and secure. Then we can make some eggs. So these are fairly small, so you just need a little bit of wool. Just wrap them up real tight, little pieces of wool, and then very carefully felt these. You shouldn't have to felt them too much, just enough so it's kind of in an egg shape. So I got a blue egg, and then I'm going to make a pink egg. And I'm just felting at like the base of these eggs, just gently, so they just stay in the basket. I'm not felting like through the top of one of the eggs because that will distort the shape. And then I'm making a green egg. If your basket can hold more eggs, feel free to make some more. That was all I wanted to fit in my basket. So then I'm just going to slide that onto my bunny's arm. My basket was nice and snug, so I didn't even felt it. But if you want to make sure it stays on, you can just do a couple little pokes through the handle of the basket and into the arm. And that's our completed Easter rabbit. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please comment on the video, and happy felting!